We're now live on YouTube. I make it 7 o'clock now.
Good evening, welcome to tonight's Skegness Town Council annual meeting of the council on Wednesday the 5th of May 2021, 7 p.m. via Zoom conferencing. Town Clerk, please.
For any members of the public watching tonight, this annual meeting of council will be different to those which usually occur. The annual meeting is where the new mayor is elected and council starts a new council year. There are two constraints placed on us today. Firstly, the COVID restrictions, which prevent councillors meeting face to face, means that the ceremony around the change of mayor and the handover of the chains of office cannot take place in the usual way. We're also in a pre-election period where the council has to take care not to say or do something that may breach election rules. As a result, some of the usual ceremonial speeches will be curtailed and the focus will be on the business that's on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we get started on tonight's meeting, it's our first town council meeting since the sad death of His Royal Highness Prince Philip. Just to let you know that I did send a letter from the council members, officers and the residents of Skegness, our condolences to Her Majesty the Queen. Also, just before we get started, also the sad news, death of a former mayor, Sheila Mackenzie, former mayor of Skegness, has passed away. And again, I'll send our condolences from us to her family and close friends. Okay, moving on to the agenda tonight. Item number 1, the election of the town mayor for 2021-22. Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It would be an honour for me to propose Councillor Trevor Burnham to be the mayor of Skegness. Trev moved to Skegness in 2005 and straight away got involved with the community. He joined Lives as a responder, supporting the ambulance service and going to many events in the town and surrounding areas, which gave him a passion for the area, for the community, got him and Jane integrated in it. And then, he wanted more. So in 2014, he joined the council, on the town council. And he has supported every single mayor since he's been on the council. He's turned up at every event that he's possibly could. I know he was a big support to me when I was the mayor. So, I have no issues proposing Councillor Trevor Burnham as the mayor of Skegness. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Simon Claxton.
Yeah, as Councillor Brooks has just, the amount that Trevor Burnham's put in the town already, supporting every mayor that he's been involved with during the time as councillor, and I'd just like to second that proposal, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other nominations? No. Okay, there's no further nominations. Can we go to the vote, please? All in favour? Councillor Saxon's got his hand up. Councillor Barry. We got all those, Town Clerk?
That's certainly approved.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I do apologise. We've got a new system up and running again tonight. The screen's changed. Okay, Councillor Burnham.
Thank you very much. You do the honours, Jane. Thank you. What's next? Myself and Mrs. Burnham would like to thank you all for electing myself as Mayor of Skegness. We will endeavour to do the best for Skegness, and thank you very much. Right, I will now best.
Can I just say a big thank you to you, Trevor, and I wish you good luck in your year as Mayor, and I'm sure you and Jane will do the town proud.
Thank you. I shall now invest the good wife. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, I will now sign the declaration. It says, I, Trevor Burnham, having been elected to the office of Town Mayor of Skegness Town Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I shall now sign the paperwork. Anybody see that?
No.
Let's go back a bit. It's not very good, is it? Oh, there we go. No, can you see that?
That's fine.
Yeah. Right, thank you very much. My chaplain this year will be the Reverend Ian Banks, who many of you already know and has been on the town council as a chaplain before. Also, I'd like to say my two charities for this year will be the British Legion Skegness branch and Alive and Kicking. Thank you. Now we come to the election of Deputy Mayor. I would like to call for nominations for the election of Deputy Mayor. Councillor Tony Tye.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to have great pleasure actually in proposing Councillor Billy Brooks as Deputy Mayor for 21-22. He will be the youngest mayor of our council that we've ever had, and he will be a great asset to us with his youth and his enthusiasm. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Adrian Finlay.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. I think young enthusiastic. I think he's a very, very ambitious young man. I think he'll do the town very proud.
Thank you. Can we go to the vote then? Or any further nominations? Sorry. No? Okay, should we go to the vote? All those in favour? Danny Brooks?
That's carried, Mayor. It is carried.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You can put your chain. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for that. My dad's just there to put the chains on, and that's why I couldn't vote. But no, I appreciate the kind word. Yeah, yeah. Your chains go on. Cheers.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Brooks, and I'm sure as a younger person you'll keep me on my toes this year.
I hope so. I'll just read out the declaration. I, Billy Brooks, having been elected to the office of Deputy Town Mayor of Skegness Town Council, declare that I take this office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Well, I like number 6 is a vote of thanks to the retiring mayor and the presentation of the crystal and some flowers, hopefully. The last few years have been very difficult time for everyone. Following the lockdown, we unexpectedly find ourselves without a roadmap for operating the council. We would usually have elected a new mayor last year, but it was just not possible to do. Therefore, I'd like to propose a vote of thanks to Councillor Mark Dannett and Louise Saxon for the hard work they have put in over the last 2 years. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, I'd like to second that, Mr. Mayor. Fantastic work that they've done. You know, I can't say anything more than that. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? Okay, thank you all.
Can I just thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your and the council for your support. I can't say much tonight, but I'd like to, with your permission, at another meeting to come and bring you the information on what we've been doing on for charities and etc. But I kind of bring that back at a later meeting. But I thank you all for your support, and you and Jane as Mayor and Mayoress. I will be giving you your flowers personally. It's not the right night tonight. I'm going to give you them personally when I see you. So I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, that concludes that then. We go to agenda item number 6 to approve the minutes of the last meeting attached. Page 66, 67, 68 and 69. Do we have a proposer?
Happy
It's
to
page
propose,
70
Mr.
as
Mayor.
well, Mayor.
Okay, proposed by Councillor Mark Dannett and seconded by Councillor Anthony Ty. Okay, item number
Mayor, that needs to go to the vote.
7. You still got your hand up, Councillor Dannett.
Sorry, I thought we was going to the vote. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. I'm new.
You'll get used to it.
Thank you. Have you got that, Town Clerk?
That's carried.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 7, to note apologies received by the Town Clerk prior to the meeting.
Mayor, we have apologies from councillors Anderson, Blackburn, Cunnington, Empson, D. Kirk and S. Kirk.
Is that the only one?
Those are the apologies. So we're now on to
Okay, thank you.
item 8.
Yeah, declarations of interest. Declarations of interest. Anybody? No? Okay, agenda item number 9. Management committee meetings attached.
Mayor, Councillor Dennis has raised his hand.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Dennis, sorry, I didn't see you there.
My apologies. I'd just like to declare any interest if we've and we put into the waiting room for the financial part of it, where I usually get out the room. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Dennis, thank you.
I don't think there'll be any payments tonight to approve, so we're just dealing with the annual accounts, which doesn't go into a level of detail that you would need to declare.
Thank you very much, Town Clerk. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Would anybody like to approve or otherwise these minutes?
I'll approve the minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor, okay, Councillor Danny Brooks approved. Councillor Billy Brooks.
I'll second them, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, can we all go to the vote then, please?
That's carried.
That's carried. Thank you. You can lower your hands. Item number 10, to review and approve standard orders. Draft attached.
It's traditional at this time of year to review the standing orders. I've highlighted the changes within the standing orders that I'm proposing, but I'll draw your attention to a few of those. Firstly, you'll see in section 3 that there is the provision for remote meetings, should this be allowed at some future point by law. So I've put some clauses in to allow us to move forward should that become law at some future point. In 3Y, you'll see that I've increased the length of the meeting to 3 hours, and this is really reflecting what's been happening over recent meetings and the need for standing orders to be sufficiently flexible to allow us to meet and for you to make decisions. However, what I would say is that it would be possible to keep that at a lower figure with stronger enforcement of the rules of debate. The rules of debate actually haven't changed very much in many years. And those say that unless the chairman otherwise permits, that councillors should only speak once on an item. Now, clearly, if we've got councillors speaking many times on each item, then the length of the discussion goes on. Now, it is within council's remit to make sure that they raise all of the points they want to raise in one go, rather than keep going around the discussion and returning to it, because I think it's that's making the agendas particularly long. So I think council, has to decide what he wants to do. Either it's going to allow longer meetings, or it's going to enforce the rules of debate a little bit more stringently to ensure that we can finish within the time period. Then moving on to section 9I to K, in relation to motions, I've added 3 extra items in there, which is that when a motion is put forward, there should be sufficient information for the council to make a decision. So if there are financial or resource implications of that motion, then those should actually be noted within the actual information itself brought forward in front of council. Similarly, if there are risks involved to the council, then those should be raised so that they can be properly debated. And similarly, if there is any conflict with existing policy or strategy, then that needs to be raised so that council makes the decision in the context of previous decisions that it's made, and it understands the full implications of those. And then finally, another major area is in section 18, which is in relation to contract regulations. And I've changed these to reflect that we've now come out of the EU. NALC hasn't yet provided the new model standing orders for this. So I've had to take the section that was there previously and interpret it and put in place the new legislation that exists. So when NALC do provide their version of it, then we will probably need to revisit that particular section and perhaps re-adopt what they propose. But at the moment, clearly what was there previously doesn't make sense because we're no longer in the EU. So those are the major changes that I've put forward. And hopefully there are a few other little ones which are just really points of clarification.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Anyone wish to speak on this matter? Councillor Dick Eddington. Your mic's still off, Dick.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to comment on the length of meetings being extended to 3 hours. I entirely agree with the clerk that the meetings, whatever meeting it is, need to be controlled to prevent, you know, it becoming so loose that we could go on forever and a day. But also, I think there's another important point. Our meetings and our agendas are getting increasingly complex, and I think that after 3 hours, most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we're starting to flag a bit. Never mind about it's difficult, you know, for the staff, because the minutes are also complex as well. And then there's a danger, I feel, that we could be rushing important decisions and perhaps in the fullness of time not making a proper decision with benefit of hindsight. So I do feel that the 3 hours, in my personal opinion, is the maximum. And if one can come do a meeting less than that, all well and good. And because we've got also, I think that another thing that will impact on the length of the meetings actually is the length of the agenda. I know sometimes it's not possible because of time constraints. In other words, we have to get try to pack a lot in. But if some of the meetings could be shortened by having a smaller agenda, which means that the individual items could perhaps receive greater attention, which might not be a bad thing. That's just my personal view. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Eddington. Councillor Tony Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Councillor Edgington. I think 3 hours, as you say, some of us are sort of getting fairly tired and could misjudge an item and call it out and without the discussion that needs to be. I think it's down to the chair to make sure that everybody complies with standing orders and doesn't speak too many times. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ty. Councillor Sid Dennis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm led to believe, Town Clerk, for your guidance, the meetings went on for 2.5 hours. That was the limit before. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wouldn't it be prudent at 2.5 hours to go to a vote? And if councillors are prepared to go forward, would that not give us an option? Or at least the council would have a view then of how people felt. And if we took it to 2.5 hours and then said, look, to move into the next half hour, you just need to take a quick vote to see if we're going to come back on it or not. Would that be something that's doable, or would that something that fellow colleagues would agree to? Because I know some nights I agree with Tony Ty totally and Councillor Edgington. You know, we can get into a position where, you know, you just want to you're just tired, you just had enough of it. You know what I mean? So if that's possible, just a suggestion.
Mayor, can I just respond to that? It is a possibility, but on a night like, for example, tonight, there aren't sufficient councillors present to overturn standing orders. Now I know whilst we're on, Zoom, perhaps there's a little bit of leeway in terms of the length of the meetings because of the administration delays and things like that. But as we move forward and back into face-to-face meetings, there does need to be 14 councillors present in order to waive standing orders.
Okay. Councillor Dan Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an observation. I've noticed these problems more since we reduced the amount of meetings. We used to have a council meeting and 2 committee meetings, audit and governance, direction and strategy. Now we just have 2 meetings. So, is that the reason that we're having to the congestion of the agenda is because we are actually a meeting short? And should we look at going back to the old committee system?
Med, shall I respond to that?
Yeah.
Do you want me to respond to that item? We did used to have more committees, but they didn't meet at the same frequency as management meet. So management generally meets most months now, whereas business and resources and direction and strategy would only meet usually every other month. So I think the total number of meetings hasn't really changed that much. But I think what Councillor Edgington said, which is the amount of stuff that's coming forward is much more than it used to be. We're managing more services. We've got more. There's more decisions for you to take. There's more, finance for you to scrutinise. There's more processes, and the regulation that we work under has become more stringent. And as a result, there is more to do.
Thank you, Steve. Councillor Martin, please.
Yes, thank you. It's been very difficult, to be fair. I appreciate where everybody was coming from. It's very difficult when people aren't, how would you put it without sounding wrong, not paying attention to putting their hands up correctly, muting the microphones, waving when you should be voting virtual hands. And also, can I just say that a lot of the meetings, especially the ones I've chaired, have had planning attached to it at the end of it. So I think you've got to bear in mind, unless you've chaired one of these meetings via Zoom, and the new one, the mayor, he'll get into it because he's starting from afresh. Which it started off quite easily, and it's got harder as people move around the screen and they've updated. Hopefully, when we get back into meetings in the chamber, this will be resolved. And I appreciate where you're all coming from, and it's very hard watching the right order of the hands, and when people are also having to raise hands and mute the microphones, it also then throws them off the course what they actually wanted to say. So I do hear where you're coming from, but just bear this in mind. It is a Zoom meeting, and they have been challenging. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I found it a struggle when, like the last meeting, we had planning attached to the end. I am interested, but like Sid said, you look over things and you don't read it properly, and because you're tired, things could slip. Mark, you still got your hand up. So where do you want to go from here?
Yeah. Can I just answer that?
Go on then. Councillor Saxon, did you want to say something?
So can you hear me now? Yeah, I was thinking what we said about getting paid. That's why we could do on the council. That's why we could do more for young people.
I didn't get any of that.
Over to you then, Sam Clark. Where do you want to go with this?
Well, council needs to decide whether or not it's willing to adopt the standing orders as written, or if it's not, then it needs to make the appropriate amendments to them so that they can then go forward for the future meetings.
Okay, would somebody like to propose that we approve this? Councillor Dick Eddington.
Can I ask through you, ask the clerk, on the assumption we agree this change tonight, does it have to be in force for 12 months before it can be amended, or can it be amended at any time during the course of the municipal year?
Well, normally it would be 6 months before council can change something that it's put in. Clearly, if there was a legislative change, that would come in straight away, effectively straight away. But with this, it's normally for 6 months. Council doesn't normally change, or shouldn't change its mind unless it goes through quite a drawn out procedure for 6 months. But I mean, in some ways, I put this in order to stimulate some debate around it, because I think it is something that council needs to think about going forward. And I think for several years, meetings have started to become longer and longer. Gone are the ones that were finished in, an hour and 10, an hour and 15 minutes. And so this is, a concern really. And so it has been brought to your attention through this. So you can choose to leave it at, as proposed at 3 hours, or you could choose to revert it back to the 2.5 hours that it was previously.
Yeah.
Andrew Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to propose that we do adopt the idea of at 2.5 hours going to the vote to whether we carry on in the meeting that evening. I think that's a very good idea from Councillor Dennis. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Billy Brooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just aside from the meeting length, I have a question about the motion standing orders, where it says if a motion shall have implications for the use of council resources or finances, these shall be set out. I'm just interested to see how much detail is going to be required here, because my fear is that if you have something like this there, it could make it very difficult for someone with a great idea to put a motion forward. And as a council that's looking to do good things and move forward, last thing I want is for us to be restricted in our ability to put ideas forward. So just sort of clarification on how far in detail we're going to have to go with this and that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The problem with the 2 hours and then voting on the night, that's all well and good if there's enough councillors there to suspend standing orders. If there isn't, then you have to stop the meeting and call another meeting. So I'm quite happy to go for the 3 hours and try our best to get it done sooner. Regarding the motions, okay. I also have an issue with the motions of how much detail we would have to put in, rather than investigating. If we had an option for the Tower Gardens where we wanted to do that, but then we had to find out the price of everything before we could put a motion in, that could stifle the town council's ability to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brooks. Well, we had a proposal from Councillor Ty. Does anybody want to second that? No?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour?
Could you just tell me what I'm voting for, please?
Yeah, I think we need clarification on the situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps I can help by first of all answering the question. I think in terms of the resources used on motions and risks, we're not talking about a small amount of resource. So if it's a question that this then has to be looked at by a committee or by a working group, then fine. But when it starts, what I want to avoid here is council making a definitive decision to do something when it hasn't fully explored the costs. So it's fine to put forward an idea and then explore what those costs may be, but not to make the decision without knowing what those things are at the meeting where the decision is made. So if it's an exploration motion, I think that would be fine. If it's a motion to do something, definitively, then that's where I think there's a bit of an issue. And I think council needs to also decide. Sorry, Mayor. I think council also needs to decide whether it's happy with the other changes within the standing orders as well, so that it's either to put forward the standing orders with the changes proposed by Councillor Tighe and seconded by Councillor Edgington, with all of the others intact, or whether or not there's further changes that you wish to make.
Okay, Councillor Anthony Tighe.
Just for Councillor Dennis, my proposal was that we adopt these new rules, but we get to the 2.5 hours of a meeting, and then we go with your idea of we vote on whether we want to stay to get the agenda completed.
Can I come back on that, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, certainly.
I think the town clerk alluded that we can't do this part of it until we have enough council members to vote that. Is that the case, Stephen?
In the meeting that would be concerned, if it was overrunning and there weren't 14 councillors present, which is 2/3 of council, then council cannot waive standing orders.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. I'm happy with that. Yeah, thank you. I know what I'm voting for.
Councillor Billy Brooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for letting me come back. I still, as a council, I feel like we should, if a motion does come forward and it hasn't got the cost, or we're not quite happy with it, I think we should all be in a position where we know we're a responsible council, and we should know that where to go from there. But it still makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, these extra points on the standing orders. So do we need to propose that they're removed, or obviously we've already got a proposed, just looking for guidance on that.
You would need to put forward a further proposal, which would be voted on first, to remove those items, but otherwise as per Councillor Tighe's proposal, and you would need a seconder. If you get a seconder for that, then that would go to the vote first. If that is voted on, then that becomes a substantive motion and then would go ahead, and the other one would have fallen.
Thank you for that. If I can, Mr. Mayor, I would like to propose that we remove them three, but also include everything Councillor Tighe said, so the 2.5 hours, and just basically changing them three from that. And I propose that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dick Eddington.
Yes, thank you. I was just wanted to ensure that we're voting for the two suggested alterations to the standing order. Is that correct?
I think we've got a situation. The Councillor Brooks's amendment hasn't yet been seconded, so it depends whether that's going to be seconded. If it is, then it may be that Councillor Tighe at that point decides he wants to drop his in favour of Councillor Brooks's motion, in which case that would then be the substantive motion. if the seconder also agrees that. If not, then Councillor Brooks's motion, if seconded, would go to the vote first to see whether it becomes the overall motion.
Right.
Okay, so we're looking for a seconder for Billy Brooks's proposal. Councillor Mark Dunnett.
You're on mute, Councillor Dunnett.
Sorry, I'm not used to this end. I'm quite happy to second Councillor Billy Brooks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do you want to go to the vote then? All in favour? You got that, Town Clerk?
Yes, that has passed the.
Take a lower your hands. Town Clerk?
So that is now the substantive motion to vote on.
Do we need another vote then? No.
We know what it's going to be, but you should do, yes.
Okay, is it gone? So we're breaking up here. We're on to item 11. Sorry, say that again, Town Clerk, you broke up.
I think that's passed. That's passed. So we can move on.
Okay. Okay, item 11. To review and approve financial regulations, draft attached. Town Clerk.
Again, similar sorts of things as the previous. There are highlighted changes. Some of it is simplification of words. The main change is to accommodate the country moving out of the EU.
Anybody wishing to speak? Tony Ty.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'd left my hand up.
No problem. Anybody else wishing to speak? Somebody like to approve this? Councillor Dick Eddington.
You're on mute, Councillor Edgington.
Yeah, move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Billy Brooks.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour? Have you got that, Town Clerk?
Yes, that's carried.
Thank you.
Mayor, given that the next item, item 12, the report was only circulated earlier, can I suggest that perhaps that's incorporated within item 13, and then an additional recommendation within item 13, which I'll go through when we get to that.
Okay, no problem. So we'll take 12 and 13 together then. Councillor Billy Brooks.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I left my hand up.
That's okay. Councillor Adrian Finlay. You're on mute. No. Would anybody like to approve these two items? Town clerk? I'm not getting any. I can only see a few page people. That's it.
Right, Mayor, I would suggest, I think you can now move on to item 13.
Okay, item 13, to consider and approve the annual government statements, accounts and annual return 2020 and 2021. Report and appendices, including annual return 2020 and 2021. Accounts and asset register to follow.
Right, Mayor, the documents that you,
Anthony Type. So he's left his hand up.
Mayor, the statements and reports you've got in front of you, just for the benefit of the public, we are the council are required by law to submit an annual governance return, an accounting return, to an external auditor and approve the accounts before the end of June. We've gone through and accelerated the timetable this year to get this done for this evening's meeting, because of there isn't another meeting before the deadline. Now, you see the actual annual return, which is broken down into several parts, and when you're looking at it, hopefully all of the meetings that we've had in relation to governance, your risk management, your accounts, all of those things that we've done through the years will give you the confidence to be able to respond in the appropriate way to the various sections. So one section has to be done before the rest of the approvals happen, and that's section 1, the annual governance statement. And what we're looking for there is council to be able to say yes to questions 1 to 8, and not applicable for number 9, because we're not doing that. If you can't say yes to numbers 1 to 8, then you will need to say what you're going to do to rectify that situation, because effectively all of these statements are about you having confidence that the annual accounts are correct and right and proper. Now, to help you, as well as all of those meetings during the year, there is a report from the internal auditor, and you'll see on page 3 of 6 that the internal auditor has signed that off, and there aren't any comments or negative reports on here. And some of you may have seen the written report that was circulated a bit earlier today. I wasn't sure when I wrote this report whether or not that would be in on time, but it has arrived today. And hopefully that will also give you that confidence that you can say yes to those particular statements. Once you've done that, then the rest of the recommendations could be taken on block if you so wish. And it is recommended that this is a recorded vote. And if a recorded vote, if council approves to go to a recorded vote, then what will happen is the deputy town clerk will read out names of the councillors present, and then just like you to say that you essentially that you support the the motion, the proposals, or you don't support it, or you abstain from making that decision. If anybody's got any questions on any of the papers, I'll do my best to try and answer those.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Anybody got any questions? Councillor Jimmy Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a question for the clerk, really. It's regarding the office equipment. I don't know if you've got two Wi-Fi phones, but it's the identical date and the identical price. 14th for the 10th, 2020. 2021, one's at the top and one's at the bottom. Thank you. It's Appendix C, inventory additions.
Just wait for Steve, Town Clerk. You're on mute.
I'm just trying to find the item. There's quite a few in there.
It's his page 1 on Appendix
Oh,
C.
right. See. We've only got one. We've only got one Wi-Fi phone. I'll need to look at that in detail.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Do we need a proposal to take these on block, Steve? Or a proposal for the vote?
First of all, you need to vote on whether it's going to be a recorded vote. If it is, then the next recommendation will be the statements. That's saying yes to 1 to 8 and not applicable to number 9. And then the rest of the recommendations can be taken on block.
Okay. Do we have a proposer for recorded vote? Councillor Anthony Ty. You're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I propose that we go to a recorded vote.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Billy Brooks.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All those in favour?
That's supported.
Okay, I think that's the majority there. Thank you. Still got your hand up, Danny Brooks.
Sorry.
Right, so shall I go through everyone's name one by one, and then you can let me know if you're for, against, or abstain? Is that what we're doing now?
We just need a proposer and seconder. The response is yes to statements 1 to 8 and not applicable to number 9.
Councillor Billy Brooks.
I'll propose that.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Mark Dunn.
To second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we can all vote now, please.
Mayor,
Yeah.
it will now be
Sorry.
the town clerk, the deputy town clerk will now go through the names and call them out. So just say, when your name's called, just say support, object, or abstain.
Right, Councillor Barry,
I abstain.
Councillor B. Brooks,
Support.
Councillor D Brooks,
Support.
Councillor Burnham,
Support.
Councillor Claxton,
Support.
Councillor Dannett,
Support.
Councillor Dennis,
Support.
Councillor Edgington,
Support.
Councillor Finlay,
Support.
Councillor Saxon, you just unmute yourself.
You're on.
Councillor Saxon, if you can just unmute your microphone, please. Councillor Saxon, are you able to unmute your microphone?
I don't think you can hear us, Kate.
Okay. I'll have to move on then to Councillor Sutton. Councillor Sutton,
Yes, I agree, yeah.
sorry, Councillor Sutton, is that Councillor Sutton, is that support?
Support, yes.
I'm back in, Kate. I support.
Support for Councillor Saxon. Councillor Ty.
Support.
And that's everyone that's in the meeting at the moment.
Now, Mayor, it may be that somebody would like to propose that the rest of the recommendations are taken on block.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a proposal for that? Councillor Billy Brooks.
If it's proposed that they are that they're taken through as well, we can do it in one go. Then.
Yeah, I'll propose that. Take them on block.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Mark Dannett.
Yeah, happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, can we all go to the vote then, please?
So we go through the same process as previously with
All right.
the Deputy Town Clerk reading them out.
Okay.
Councillor Barry,
Support.
Councillor B Brooks,
Support.
Councillor D Brooks,
Support.
Councillor Burnham, Councillor Burnham, I think you've frozen.
Let's move on and come back.
Councillor Claxton,
Support.
Councillor Dannett,
Support.
Support.
Councillor Dennis.
Yeah.
Support.
Councillor Burnham, I got that support.
Support, yeah.
Councillor Finlay,
Support.
Councillor Saxon,
Support.
Councillor Sutton,
Support.
and Councillor Ty.
Support.
You're not asking me, Deputy Clerk.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Edgington.
Support.
That's everything.
That's cheap aftershave for you.
That's unanimous. So.
Okay, thank you all for that. Item agenda number 14, to approve the committee structure for 2021 and 22. Report attached, Town Clerk.
There's no real changes to these, so it's really just to ensure that they go forward. Again, the authority of the various committees is set out the current number of members, and also to keep the membership as it is. That's the recommendation.
Okay, anybody got anything to say about that? Would somebody like to propose it? Councillor Billy Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to propose that. I think we do some great work on the committees, and I think it should continue.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Simon Claxton.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, please.
Okay, no problem. We will go to the vote then, please.
That's carried, Mayor.
I think that's unanimous. Yes, thank you very much. You can lower your hands now. Item 15, to confirm that all appointments to council, appointed tasks and finishing groups remain unchanged. Town Clerk.
Again, similar thing, which is that the existing groups continue as is.
Okay. Anybody wish to speak or propose? Simon Claxton, please.
Yeah, on the reverse of that page, there is environment action policies. I don't see it saying on the back. It just says Kirk. I'm not sure which one it is. Senior or junior?
It's D, Kirk. The D's on the front, on the sheet, the preceding sheet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, would anybody like to propose? Simon Claxton.
Yeah, I propose that these everything stays as it is on this one.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Ty.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Can we all go to the vote now, please?
That's carried, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item 16, to confirm that all appointments to outside bodies representatives remain unchanged. Town Clerk.
Exactly that. It's the same again. These are the council's representatives. So again, no, I'm not proposing any changes there. That is just carried forward as is, as council previously have agreed.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Happy to propose that these are carried on as the existing members. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Claxton.
Yeah, I'll second that from Councillor Dannett. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we go to the vote then, please? Okay. Have you got that, Town Clerk?
That's carried.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Item 17, confirm officer delegations. Town Clerk.
Mayor, these, again, the usual sort of delegations that come forward. Those functions which are implicitly delegated are those that come with the role of proper officer, responsible finance officer, etc. The functions explicitly delegated are those where the council has effectively delegated the responsibility to me previously. So that again is to confirm those, and of course any of those are can be delegated then to the deputy town clerk in my absence, or if I choose to delegate to the deputy town clerk.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've just got a couple of queries. The first one is 213, placing orders. Just wondered what that was. And then the second one was delegating functions and responsibilities to other staff, but remaining responsible to the council. Is that just to the deputy town clerk, or is that to any member of staff? Also, I've got letting and termination of allotment and commercial tenancies. I would have thought that if someone was to be leaving one of our commercial premises, then the council should have some kind of say in that. And then also granting the Jolly Fisherman trademark permits. I think the council should be having a say in that rather than not knowing. And yeah, that's them so far. That's it. Thank you.
Right. If I come back to those, so placing orders, we do that on a pretty much a daily basis. That might be something that's delegated to another member of staff. So, for example, we might place an order for a replacement part on a mower, or a new spade for the grounds team, or a pencil, stationery, paper. There's lots and lots of things that we buy all of the time, which, to be quite frank, if it wasn't delegated down to me and then for me to delegate it further on, we'd be meeting, council would be meeting for 6 hours a day, every day of the week, just to deal with these things. The second one, was that the second one, the letting and termination of?
No, the second one was delegating functions to and responsibilities to other staff. Is that to just to the town clerk, or is that for everything?
No, it's for everything. So in order that anybody can do anything, it's effectively I'm instructing them to do it. And then unless I'm going to be standing over them, it's delegated. So, for example, answering emails, dealing with inquiries. It might be at the cemetery, for instance, taking responsibility for functions down there. That's delegated to the grounds team. So I remain overall responsible, but in order to function, I have to then delegate those things that you've delegated to me down in order to work. The letting and termination of allotment and commercial tenancies. Allotment tenancies get changed fairly frequently, to be honest. The termination of a tenancy might be, for example, in relation to a breach of contract, and the council may wish to react quickly rather than wait to call a meeting and undertake that. In most cases, council would be notified of these sorts of things anyway as soon as possible. But for instance, it wouldn't be usual if we've got a process in place. For example, if there was the letting of a commercial tenancy, one of the kiosks, for example, there would be a process. So that might be a bidding process, or it might be a bit like a reverse tender process, if you like. So there would be a process in place, which would then result in that being done in and a tenancy granted because it's gone through that process. If council make those decisions without that process in place, then of course it opens itself up to choosing a particular person to go in that tenancy, which is why it's not it's not something that I would just make up, you know, and decide on a moment's whim. It would be like letting a contract, if you like. We would be following a strict process that would be laid down. Now, the reality is that I would be coming to council and saying, you've got a vacancy. This is the process we need to go through. You would say yes to that process, and then it would go through that process, and it would end up in the letting of the tenancy, rather than involving council in that detail. The Jolly Fisherman trade mark permits. Again, there's a set of rules that's set out. If it's a commercial basis, then it goes to the council's management company to decide. If it's a non-commercial, so for example, if it's for a local charity or a local voluntary organisation to use, or it's in publicity that's generally going to be beneficial to the town, then previously I have made those decisions in order to avoid there being a delay. But as I say, if it's a commercial decision, then it goes to the company which council has delegated to make those commercial decisions, you know, about. So was there another one?
No, I think that was it.
That was it.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Councillor Simon Claxton.
Just a question regarding 2.1.8, responding to emergencies, including the incurring of unbudgeted expenditure. Example in this. Sorry about that. The 2.1.8, responding to emergencies, including incurring an unbudgeted expenditure. Can you give me an example when that would be implemented, please?
So, for example, if there was an emergency, I've got to say, in the time that I've been here, it's not been something that I've had to respond to, you know, very quickly. But for example, if we had something that arise, it was a dangerous situation or something like that, that could cause either additional risk to the council, or it could present a danger to a member of the public, and it was necessary to take immediate action. Those are the sorts of things. It's very difficult to actually predict what those things might be, you know, where it's unbudgeted. But for example, if there was something that, for example, a big gap opened up in a path on Vine Walk or something like that, then you might need to buy additional fencing to fence it off, or put warning signs up. Now, that might not be budgeted, but it might be something you have to do to avoid somebody falling down that hole.
Just to come back, would that not be what 2.1.11 is?
Well, they are very similar. These are actually in standing orders, and they're generally the same across all parish and town councils, that the town or parish clerk has a power to act in an emergency situation. Now, that could be to minimise, as it says, to minimise risk or financial loss, but it could be if, for instance, there was a flood and I needed to protect council assets, then you know, there's a judgment there that I would have to make and then justify to you that that I'd taken the right course of action to prevent that, you know, damaging a council asset, for example.
Thank you for that, John. Anybody else wish to speak? Simon Claxton, still got your hand up. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we move those forward, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Anthony Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Can we all go to the vote, please?
Sorry, I've just got one more question. Sorry.
Oh. Go on in.
We got a list of the town clerk's delegated powers.
That's what you're approving.
Yeah. Okay, should we go to the vote then? All those in favour? Have you got
That's
that, Town
carried.
Clerk?
That's carried.
Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item number 18, to confirm existing payment signatories. Town Clerk.
Again, it's just to carry forward the existing ones.
Okay. Do we need to vote on this?
Yes, yeah.
I'll propose that, Mr. Mayor.
Happy to second that, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
can I have a proposer, please?
Yeah, I'll propose that, Mr. Mayor.
And I'm happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we got a proposer.
I think there's a bit of a
Okay,
delay
thank
on
you
the
very much.
line.
Please vote now.
There is a proposer and a seconder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a delay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, got that. Okay, we got that.
That's carried.
Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 19, annual general data protection regulations, GDPR review. Report attached. Town Clerk.
I'm going to hand over to the Deputy Town Clerk for this one.
Thank you. Yeah, this
Okay,
is
thank you.
This is brought to your attention tonight for you to review the council's compliance regarding the GDPR regulations. Last year's review was delayed due to COVID, so it's only been actually 10 months since the last review. So the items in place that the council have to ensure that they are GDPR compliant is we undertake this annual review. We provide privacy notices wherever we collect data, and these are updated as and when it's required. We now ensure that all consent is gained, so we don't ever assume you consent to us collecting your information. There is a page on our website that fully explains how everyone's personal data is used. We have in-house training, which we plan in June to do some refresher training on the general data protection regulations, and external training through LAUC is also offered to all councillors. So we have documents and policies in place that show how the council is complying and upholding the principles, data protection principles. And we have software and systems in place, and we control the access to data. So there's not been a lot of change since 10 months ago. We have updated the privacy notices with our new office address. Of course, now we have a strengthened security measures in place in the office. We're able to control access much better there. And we're following the guidance regarding the track and trace, and we're ensuring that those details are only kept for 21 days. So as you know, there are risks with non-compliance. It can lead to either fines and reputational damage to the council. this risk really was increased due to COVID and us all having to work from home with short notice. But these are definitely better controlled now that we're all working from the office much more, and any data sensitive tasks are taking place on council controlled software. So it's a good reminder for us all to ensure we're securing everyone's personal data, we're not keeping it for longer than we need, and we're only using it for the purpose that it was gathered. It's a good reminder, town councillors, you are protected by using your council email address, especially when dealing with any personal identifiable information. So we're monitoring compliance, we review it regularly, and especially...
Kate, really sorry, it appears we've lost the mayor.
All right, yes. Yes.
I don't know if he's trying to get back in, is he?
His internet connection may have gone down. Shall I continue, Steve?
Yes, he's coming back.
Yeah. So this report is just to make us all aware of our obligations. And from the office point of view, we advise that, when you're offered any training, and us in the office as well, that we should be attending that training whenever possible. So the recommendations here are to raise any concerns you may have regarding the data protection regulations and the council's compliance, and to note and adopt the review. I'll take any questions.
Anybody wishing to speak? Councillor Billy Brooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to propose this. I think the town council do a great job of staying in the lines and doing as they should when it comes to GDPR, because there is some organisations that don't, and so propose that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Simon Claxton.
I'd just like to second the statement that Billy Brooks just made. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Anthony Tye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to second the proposal.
Okay, then, all in favour, please raise your hand. I think that's the majority, Town Clerk.
Yes, that's passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to have to leave the meeting, guys. Cheers. Good night.
Okay, I must apologise. I did have a storm above my house about 5 minutes ago and I got cut off. But I'm back now. Agenda item 20.
Mr. Mayor.
Climate. Yes, sorry, George.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the meeting. Thank you all. Cheers.
Thank you.
Okay, George, noted. Thank you. Agenda item 20, Climate Change Working Group. Minutes, notes attached.
So, Mayor, these are for noting and approval.
Noted. Okay. Would somebody like to note them?
And approval.
And approval. Councillor Matt Dennett.
Yeah, happy to do for both. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Pete Barrett. You're muted.
I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you all go to the vote then, please? Raise your hand. I think that's the majority, Town Clerk.
It is. That's carried.
Thank you. You can lower your hands now. Agenda item 21, LCC Active Travel Fund consultation. Correspondence plan and consultation attached. Town Clerk.
Well, the papers are in front of you. I haven't got anything to add to them.
Okay. Anybody wishing to speak on this item? Councillor Dick Eddington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at these papers. Unless I've missed something, with what is proposed, you've got to bear in mind that a lot of those premises that they on commercial premises, they haven't got rear access. So how are we going to get so there could be service with, supplies, etc. Because I know in the past there's been proposals to pedestrianise Lumley Road over the years, and the various reasons have never come to anything. And I think that you've got to have a scheme, whatever it is, that allow commercial properties to be serviced by suppliers. Otherwise, we have a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Danny Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I tend to agree with Councillor Edgington. I believe a few years ago, as Councillor Edgington has alluded to, they did a survey of this road and they said it would be disastrous to shut it because the vast bulk of traffic that go down that road, one would clog up the rest of the side streets. But the main concern is, you have got commercial premises outside down there that have no rear entrance because they're back onto another one. And I just don't know, unless, if they just block it completely off, just the cycles, I don't know any delivery drivers with push bikes anymore. So I'm a little bit concerned. Pedestrianisation sounds a good idea. And, if you weren't travelling down there, then it probably is. But you've got to be concerned for the businesses because we don't want to lose businesses on the high street. Well, Lumley Road, not the high street.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Claxton, please.
Although, yeah, I've spoken to quite a few people about this, and yeah, it seems a great idea, but it's those small shops that we need in Lumley Road that don't have the access. So this, to me, this would be disastrous for the town. We've already got numerous empty shops on that stretch of road. So this, to me, this really isn't a great idea.
Councillor Anthony Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there is a complete survey needs to be carried out with the shops on Lumley Road to see who is in favour and who is against. Many years ago, there was a survey done and it was around 50-50 of people who was in favour and people against. You've got to remember, a lot of the shopkeepers actually park up outside of their shops and carry on trading for the day. Now, they would lose that. They wouldn't be able to park there. They'd have to go on the cricket ground, as Scots do. It would be a huge problem without a survey being done because, if not all the shops, I mean, some of the shops need cars pulling up on the front to pick up the goods that they've purchased. So I don't know. As I say, it was nearly the LCC nearly gave us a platform to have a trial period, and then they pulled the plug sort of a week before the trial period, stating they hadn't got the money in the council to do it. That was many, many years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dick Eddington, please. You're on mute, Dick.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to come back on this. If you look at the letter that LCC sent us, the first paragraph states quite clearly the aims and objectives of this, but high streets throughout the country have been under enormous pressure, and we've seen businesses fold for various reasons. And I think that any proposal to fundamentally alter Lumley Road should first of all consider what the impact is going to be on businesses that operate on that stretch of road, because as I said in my initial remarks, unless they can be adequately serviced by their suppliers, all we're going to do is make a situation a lot worse, and we've gained absolutely nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anthony Ty, have you left your hand up? You're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that, I had.
Okay. Councillor Billy Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to say about, obviously we all know the impact that closing Roman banks had on the side streets on the St Andrews Drive and things like that. And the impact has been huge. The roads are in a terrible state. And I fear something like this would have the same effect on the side streets surrounding Lumley Road. And you can't close the arteries of the town up and it not have an impact elsewhere.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Yeah, I had the same feelings myself. Closing down Lumley Road. Where's the traffic going to go in the summer periods? I don't think we've got the infrastructure at the moment. Councillor Edgington, have you left your hand up? Thank you. Town Clerk, where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, there is a survey for the tranche 2 consultation, which the way it's worded, I think it'd be very difficult for the council to respond as a council, to be honest, to that. So I think individually you may wish to respond, and when you're out and about, you may wish to encourage other people within the town to also respond to this consultation. It'd be possible to write a letter back to the team that sent the email, and I think what I'm hearing tonight is that you've got great concerns about access for businesses and what the impact will be, and there isn't really an assessment here of what that impact on businesses might be. Now, I don't know whether there's other information that Lincolnshire County Council have got where they've actually spoken separately to those businesses. We don't have that information in front of us. So you could write and say that you'd like a better understanding of what the impact on businesses are and what the business views are on it before perhaps making further comments. But if they stick obviously to their very tight time frame for response, then it may be difficult to get that information in time.
Thank you. Councillor Danny Brooks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would propose that we write that very letter, and also in the meantime, all of us fill in this survey and encourage everybody else to fill the survey in. I think if you just come along without any consultation, without any traffic surveys, and just shut the shut the artery of the town, you're going to give it a heart attack. So I think without any, if they've not done any traffic surveys whatsoever and just said, right, let's shut this and get everybody on a push bike, I think that's it's poor. It's very poor.
Okay, Councillor Adrian Finlay.
Yeah, I just wondered if what my concern here is, obviously the idea itself doesn't work, but I'm just wondering if they had any other plans with the funding that was available for Skegness. I think it's such a shame that there's a chunk of money there that they're going to invest in the wrong place in the town. Are we in a position to say, well, that chunk of money, we'll still keep it, but we'll put it in a better place within the town? I just think it's a shame, obviously, that we're looking to, make improvements across the town in many ways. This not being one of them, I don't think myself, but if the money's there, we really ought to be saying, well, we'll have the money, but maybe not for that idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have a second there for Councillor Brooks's proposal? Councillor Simon Claxton.
I'll second that proposal.
Okay. We would all like to go to the vote then, please.
That's carried.
Thank you. Item 22 on the agenda, a virtual meeting update, a verbal report. Town Clerk.
As you know, from the email that I sent out, the judicial review of virtual meetings came to a conclusion that the judges looking at it didn't want to effectively change the law and feel that it's a matter for primary legislation. So that means the council's ability to hold meetings like this virtually and which are broadcast has been stopped for official council meetings from the end of this week. It doesn't stop the council having informal meetings. Its task and finished groups can continue to meet using that, but it leaves us in a bit of a difficult situation until after the 21st of June. Now, at this moment in time, we don't know what the government restrictions will be after the 21st of June. There obviously have been the Prime Minister has said that he hopes that all of the restrictions will be lifted. We had another minister, though, saying that it may be that some social distancing measures may still need to be enforced. So we don't really know, and we won't know until 2 weeks before that date when the government make an announcement as to exactly how we'll be operating from the 21st of June. I think we should work on the basis that that we will be operating face-to-face meetings after that date, but this will have an effect on the calendar that we've already agreed, because there was an assumption in there that virtual meetings would continue and we would be able to do, for instance, planning. So we'll need to review that meeting calendar and come back at the first meeting of council after the 21st of June. There has been a further detail released today from the judges, which indicate that the part of the legislation they weren't happy to make an announcement on was the presence of the public. But of course, that is the very thing which makes it difficult, if not impossible, for councils to meet at the moment. This is a problem for all councils of all sizes, not just town and parishes, but of course larger councils often have bigger resources to deal with the problems that we now face. So for tonight, it's really for you to recognise that we're not going to be having any meetings now until after the 21st of June, and how we should deal with urgent business that comes along. Now, the only business that I think will be majorly affected will be planning. Now, we had a system in place at the beginning of last year, before we had virtual meetings, where I took soundings from councillors about planning applications and then made the actual observations under delegated authority, taking those comments into account. Now, one way we could get around that to make it even better is to hold a virtual planning meeting, so it wouldn't be an official planning meeting in that you wouldn't be able to make a decision at it, but that would give me very clear guidance as to what you want to do, and then I can write those comments under delegated powers. So that would be a way forward to get over planning issues. I'm hoping that we don't have any other major issues coming up in the next 2 months effectively, other than that. And that again is the importance why I can act with emergency powers when necessary. So have a think about what I've said, and whether you would like to do put in place those proposals for planning, so that there is an opportunity for you to have a say, albeit through myself.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Councillor Sid Dennis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question for the Town Clerk. Have we got the facilities to have council meetings face to face? Have we got the social distancing? Have we got the space in the hall to do that? It's just a question.
For councillors, yes, but the problem is that there's no restriction on the public at all. So if the public, we could probably, in for normal meetings, we may well be okay, but there isn't in legislation any means by which we can prevent somebody coming in, and it's quite messy in terms of, yes, health and safety, but then how do you decide who's in, who's not? How it's causing a lot of problems for a lot of councils. We're fortunate in that I think even if there are some restrictions remaining after the 21st of June, I think our hall's probably going to be big enough to allow us to meet okay. Clearly at the moment we're in a situation where groups of more than 30 are difficult to manage. I mean, some of the suggestions that have been put forward are, I think, not workable. I mean, one of the suggestions is to meet outside. I don't think that's workable, because how do you know what the weather's going to be like a week, in advance? And trying to conduct a meeting outside with surrounding noise and goings on, I think would be very difficult. We don't normally have a council meeting in June anyway, a full council meeting. It's normally the first one after the annual is normally July, so that's no change. The problem is really in respect of planning.
Thank you.
Can I come back, please? Can I just come back, please?
Sorry, Sid.
Yeah, so it's all right.
Go on,
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm quite happy to propose that then in that case. I can see you're between a rock and a hard place, but I do think if committees can meet, if planning can meet, then that's a way around it. And I'm sure clarification will come after June at some stage, I'm sure. But I'd like to propose that with those included for planning and for the committee meetings, so we can still carry on doing the business as a council. But I can understand the cleft stick situation you are with the public, because you don't know how many are going to turn up. And as far as now 20 to 9, if we was having this meeting outside now, I'm sure we'd be a long way on the way up. So yeah, I don't think that's possible. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Councillor Billy Brooks, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate what the town clerk's saying, but today I've seen a number of councils, I believe Borough Parish Council, have announced that face-to-face meetings will be back from the end of May. So it's just really a question of what is, why are we unable to do it and some other councils are? I mean, we've got a massive hall there. It's just, what is the difference between us and them is the question.
Thank you.
I think the difference is how many people are going to attend. Planning is difficult to predict, because we don't know what planning agenda items are going to come up, and therefore how many people may attend. I mean, I have known in the past where we've had 40 people attend a planning meeting because it's a controversial one. Now, if we had 40 people turn up, we wouldn't be able to manage that situation. It is, it is what it is. Each council has to make its own decisions. My fear would be, how do we operate that? So do we, we would need marshalling on the doors. So that means bringing in some extra staff to do that. If we can, it's not, those other staff are not usually here for meetings. If we can, there would be a cost to that as well. So it may be possible, but my concern is that we aren't able to safely meet for that month in accordance with, you know, rules. Yes, it may be possible, but lots of councils are saying, no, we can't meet.
Okay, Councillor Anthony Ty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to second Councillor Sid Dennis's proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you all like to go to the vote then on Councillor Dennis's proposal, seconded by Anthony Ty?
Could you just refresh that for me, because the signal's quite bad and I've missed what Councillor Dennis said.
Yeah, I did as well. Did you
think,
write that down, Frank Clark?
I think the proposal was to hold a virtual pseudo planning meeting so that effectively councillors are making the decisions during the period between May and June, and that I will take those decisions, but when they're written up on the actual observations, they will go as me rather than the town council, but you would have made the decisions on them, and then that would last until the restrictions are lifted in June. I'm not proposing that there would be a council meeting or a committee meeting, other committee meeting in between now and June, as I don't think you know, there will be a need for it, and then we'll get back into business at the beginning of July as we usually would. Just to add, June is usually the month where we do the training, so there will be meetings of councils, but those wouldn't be council meetings in the true sense. So that's when we normally catch up on our training, deal with any issues, and you know that councillors may wish to raise about procedures or the way that we do things. We can get those sorted out and then start again in July as usual.
Thank you. Councillor Anthony Ty, your hand's still up.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'd left it up because I thought we were going to the vote.
Okay, no problem. So you've all heard Councillor Dennis's proposal. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
That's carried, Mayor.
Thank you. Now I think that concludes our meeting tonight. I'd like to thank you all for voting me on as mayor again, and thank you to all those that attended tonight. And